People say that at the base price of a Rolls-Royce Phantom, you can buy 5 Porsches, and this can only ever be so true. Owning a Rolls-Royce brings you to par with the likes of Simon Cowell, Drake, and Kim Kardashian, amongst others. It unapologetically launches you into the enchanting world of luxury and exclusivity. But
how did it come to this?
Today, we look into the incredible story of Rolls-Royce and why they're so expensive. To answer this question, we need to take a trip down memory lane. The origin of Rolls-Royce traces back to a man called Frederick Henry Royce. He was an England native, born in Alwalton in 1863, the last of 5 children. He was born into a particularly low-earning family that ran a flour mill. Owing to his father's lack of business skills, the flour mill shut down in 1867 after the company filed for bankruptcy. The family then moved to England, hoping to make a more stable living for themselves. Frederick had his first job at the age of 4. He made 6 pence a week scaring off birds at a local farm.
Yeah, it's been pretty rough.
And as if that wasn't enough, Frederick's father, James Royce, passed away in 1872. Following this, everyone had to pitch in to keep the family afloat, and 9-year-old Frederick was by no means exempt from this task. He started delivering newspapers and telegrams to help his mother and elder siblings. Needless to say, the financial circumstances of his family affected him profoundly. By the age of 15, Frederick was no better than an illiterate, having only completed a single grade. This difficulty is not to be confused with complacency, as he worked as an apprentice in the Great Northern Railway Works. He focused on technical subjects like algebra and engineering, and soon he began to excel in them. After this, he worked for a tool manufacturing company in Leeds, and then an electrical distribution company in London. Still unsatisfied, Frederick moved to Liverpool, where he worked for an electric power company. However, Frederick knew his ambition was to own a company of his own, where he would major in engineering and express his fascination for engines. So in 1884, he opened a company in the heavy industry with Ernest Claremont, a friend of his who was also an engineer. The company was named F.H. Royce & Company, after the now 22-year-old Frederick Royce. The company produced electrical tools and gadgets like dynamos and doorbells for the next few years. This business boomed so much that in less than a decade, they were also producing electric cranes. However, his insatiably ambitious nature kept him pulling somewhere else. He wanted to start making motor cars, so he set out to do just that. But what would happen next would change the course of his life forever. At first glance, one would think that the Rolls in Rolls-Royce referred to the movement of the vehicle's tires. Or maybe you were like me and were taught that the name was simply symbolic of Royce's legacy in the automobile industry. Interestingly though, it is neither of those. Instead, the name Rolls refers to another man who would play a massive role in Frederick's success. His name was Charles Stuart Rolls. These two men had a lot in common, save for the difference in financial status, that is. Both men had been born in the same place and were the last children of their parents. Unlike Frederick, Charles was a rich kid. Nevertheless, he enjoyed a standard education, studying mechanical engineering at Trinity College in Cambridge, having fallen in love with engines and their operations. He was the first to own a car in his locality at the age of 18, which was pretty unusual given the fact that cars hadn't been heard of, let alone seen at the time. Later in 1903, he opened a car dealership company in Britain with financial help from his father. His company, C.S. Rolls & Co., focused on importing and selling cars from France and Belgium. Besides being a car enthusiast, Charles was also a daredevil race driver and aviator. Unfortunately, these hobbies of his would eventually lead to his untimely death in 1910. However, it wasn't until 1904 that both men met in a very peculiar manner. By this time, Charles was tired of selling foreign brand cars. Instead, he wanted to boost his business by selling an innovative, private label car. Frederick had grown weary of the construction faults in other car brands and decided to build one of his own. The car was a hit, so he decided to build 2 more, one of which he gave to his partner Ernest. He sold the second one to Henry Edmunds, one of his company's shareholders. Henry went around bragging about his new car to his friends, one of which was Charles Rolls. It was through this man that Rolls would eventually meet Royce. Now, 4-cylinder vehicles were most popular at the time, so Frederick's 2-cylinder car really impressed Charles. He knew on the spot that he had found the brand he was looking for, and immediately agreed to sell as many vehicles as Frederick would be able to produce. And that was how Rolls-Royce was born. These two men made a phenomenal duo, given their significant differences in age, education, and social class. However, none of this stopped the peculiar partnership between both men in producing exquisite vehicles using world-class engineering. Today, over a century later, the Rolls-Royce has continued to boom and rather appreciate in value. What makes Rolls-Royce so unique? Why has it not lost its value, even after years of wars and global economic crisis? And most importantly, Why are they so damn expensive? The reason why Rolls-Royce tops the charts as one of the most expensive luxury brands on earth isn't that much of a mystery. First off, it's called a luxury car. No luxury comes cheap, obviously, but it's safe to say that Rolls-Royce hits away differently. This doesn't mean the company never had its fair share of trouble.
For example,
during the 1980s, the company had to be sold 4 times due to a crash in the global market and shrinking sales.
But to be fair,
the company had a hand in its own downfall, given its enormous cost. Because of this, only the extremely wealthy of society could afford it. That was until BMW came along. It acquired the Rolls-Royce company in 1988 for $570 million. This did not include Rolls-Royce's characteristic Spirit of Ecstasy ornament. BMW had to acquire the rights to that differently, and this too with another ginormous purchase of $40 million.
this is where change begins.
As a plan to get value for their money, BMW had to come up with a marketing plan to sell Rolls-Royce to the world. They decided not to reduce the price of each car, but to customize each and every one specifically to the buyer's needs, even if they're just silly desires. With this, not one Rolls-Royce would be like the other, thus giving clients value for their money. When you buy a Rolls-Royce, you can make it any color you desire. The Rolls-Royce team offers a color palette of over 44,000 colors to choose from. It doesn't matter if it's the color of something you've seen somewhere, something you own, or a skin tone. They can make it happen for you. One time, a customer wanted his Rolls-Royce the color of his dog, so the dog's fur color palette was curated, and the spectacular Rolls-Royce was created. The Rolls-Royce brand is so exclusive that if one customer creates a palette and another customer desires to replicate it, the Rolls-Royce team would send a call across, requesting the customer's approval to do so. Rolls-Royce also accepts client special requests. For example, one wealthy customer was unsatisfied with the color variations, so he requested that his car be painted pitch black but with a twist. He bought a bag of diamonds and requested that Rolls-Royce infuse it in his car paint, and they did exactly that. They crushed 1,000 diamonds and made a shimmery black paint for the car. Amazing, right? Of course, this is just one feature that makes a Rolls-Royce what it is. All artistic effects and designs are handcrafted by a dedicated team of artists. A special coach liner is assigned to draw lines and other details on the car. These lines are hand-painted with no ordinary brush, but one made of squirrel fur. According to them, squirrel hair is preferred because it doesn't leave brush marks on the coaches while painting. From the handmade Phantom grille to the wheel bearings that make sure that Rolls-Royce logo stays straight up all the time, to the Spirit of Ecstasy ornament, everything about the Rolls-Royce speaks of luxury. Turns out you can customize all these as well. For instance, Drake had the Spirit of Ecstasy replaced with an ornament of his own, a diamond-studded gold owl hood. One of the features Rolls-Royce is best known for is its star-lit roofing. This fascinating feature is created using over 1,300 fiber optic lights to replicate the starry night sky. A client once requested this luxury fitting to replicate the constellation of stars present on the night he was born, and this request was non-hesitantly granted. The dashboards can also be customized. Customers are allowed to choose from several wood types, colors, and trends. One time, a client even had a gold-plated 3D printed stainless steel dashboard made to exactly replicate his DNA profile.
Now that's creepy.
But I guess when you're rich, why not? Moving on, the interior's colors, material, and design can also be customized. Clients can decide if they want their car seats made out of materials like boar fur, alligator hide, ostrich feathers, or even rodent pelt. Another feature that really makes Rolls-Royce stand out is its insulation. A perfect, silent ride is one of Rolls-Royce's core principles. So they fit each car with up to 300 pounds of acoustic insulation, eradicating all sounds from the outside. Also, Rolls-Royce developed a special foam padded tire to eliminate the road sound further when driven. If that isn't ecstasy, I don't know what is. So, why is the Rolls-Royce so expensive? It's simple. Excellent bespoke engineering and pure luxury. If you like this video, be sure to check out the exciting video we made about Honda.